considered that before. And my story is no different. When I was a little girl, grew up on a farm, we always rented it out, so we did not actually farm the land, but I did grow up on a farm in Jones County, North Carolina, and always wanted to go to NC State and to be a veterinarian. I didn't even care what kind of vet at that point. I just knew that that was what I wanted to do. So of course, go all the way through high school, still on the same track in my mind, and apply to NC State. And that was the only place that I applied, which looking back is not the safest decision. So I encourage you to apply to lots of colleges if that is your career path, and just to be on the safe side. But I did get in, and I went into the animal science program at NC State University, and I graduated in 2010 with a bachelor's of science in animal science. So while I was there at school, the first couple of years were fine. I then had to take organic chemistry more than once. Well, let's just say that. It was extremely frustrating. I just could not get it. And that opened me up to a couple of possibilities that maybe were not exactly what I thought I wanted to do when I was 5 years old. So looking back over all of those years, I was a very involved 4-H'er in Jones County 4-H, and did a lot of 4-H based programs as well as a lot of horse programs. That was kind of my area that I enjoyed at the time. And we had a really good 4-H agent. We had a really good livestock agent, Amy was her name, and she drugged me all over the country doing different 4-H projects that were horse related. So having that in my background and realizing that maybe going to vet school is not for me, I started to look around at other options. So I knew when I graduated with that BS in animal science in 2010 that if I did go to vet school eventually, it would not be right then. It would be something I had to come back and do later. But at that time, the timing obviously worked out perfect. Amy actually moved to a role with the Farm Service Agency, and that meant that her position as a livestock agent in Craven, which is a neighboring county to Jones, Craven and Jones counties had opened up. So right out of school, I applied for that position actually right before I graduated and got that position. I had, like I said, a really good, strong background in both of those counties. I grew up and went to school in Jones County, and then in high school went to school in Craven County. So I was very familiar with the people, the farmers, the area, the livestock, the terrain, etc., and really excited to have that position available to me. So I got started and realized quickly over the next few years that no, vet school was not the option for me, and that I was meant to be in extension, and that I was really glad that I was here. So the first couple of years I worked as a livestock agent in Craven and Jones counties, and that just meant that I worked with the farmers in any educational format possible. So we held classes for them. It could have been on pasture management, could have been on weed management. It could have been an equine class. We did one class working with Reins, which was the volunteer horse organization at the time. And we talked to people about how to float their horses' teeth. We talked to them about how to take care of their horses properly. And typically all of our programming is really cheap or free. We try to provide as much free programming as possible. We also covered all the other species too. So we covered pigs, cows, goats, sheep, horses, chickens, whatever you could think of that fell under the term livestock is what we covered in those counties. So I did that for about 5.5 years. And Cooperative Extension at that time decided that they would be restructuring, which was scary because we did not know if we would be able to continue in our same roles that we had had for X amount of years, or if we would need to move to something that was different and available. So at that time, I think that Extension was able to keep 1.3 of 3 agents. So unless they were going to keep part of my leg and get rid of the rest of me, I knew that didn't make much sense, and so that someone should be looking another job. Well, I knew that I wanted to stay in Extension. I really enjoyed my job. I enjoyed the educational aspect of helping the farmers and that we were not regulatory, which to me was a huge plus. And we could not go and cite people for things they were doing wrong, but we could educate them on how to make them right and how to do them better. So after about 5.5 years in that role, I took the position I am in now, which was the area specialized poultry agent. And I was really excited to have that. Had no idea if I would get it or not. My poultry experience was fairly limited to when I was a livestock agent and what experience I had gained during that time. Did not have any poultry specific classes in college, so felt that that was a disadvantage to me and hoped that I could continue on and get some of those in the future. So when I started in this role, I actually covered the eastern 40 counties, which all of you live in North Carolina, and many of you are probably from North Carolina. So you know that there are 100 counties in the state, and obviously that means 50 would be half, and I covered 40 of those. So almost half the state was a little overwhelming, but really enjoyed that role as well. So backing up a little bit, when I was the livestock agent, I did decide that I wanted to go back to school and get my master's. So I was able to go back to NC State University online and worked during that time as a livestock agent on my master's of animal science. So graduated with that in 2014 and began this role at the end of 2015. So I've been here about the same amount of time and in cooperative extension now for about 10 years. Been there all of my time straight out of undergraduate classes. So really enjoy my role here and glad to be here. We have restructured again a couple of times since then as far as the agents go. So now I ended up covering 30-something counties after the 40 because we hired someone else. And then now I only cover 32. So it's really exciting to have a few less counties to travel to because, as you know, North Carolina is a very, very long state, and it could take you a good 7 or 8 hours to make it from one end to the other. And although I did not have all of the counties, it was still a lot of travel time. So really enjoy what I do now, and it's basically the same thing as when I was a livestock agent, except it's poultry specific. And so anything to do with chickens, turkeys, guineas, any type of bird that you can think of, besides your, like your little parakeets and things like that, we help educate farmers on. So if you have poultry processing questions, we have a class on that we do annually, where folks are able to come and learn how to actually process their broilers. We do educational classes for them. We have classes for the commercial producers as well. So that just means the bigger guys, the ones that have chicken houses or turkey houses, we help them with any type of ventilation questions that they have. And another big part of my job working with the commercial producers is actually nutrient management plans or litter plans or waste plans. You may have heard one of those terms before. They all are interchangeable in the poultry world and all mean just a plan to manage your litter or your waste that you get out of your chicken and turkey houses. So I write a lot of litter plans. That's something that is basically kind of just a service that we provide for free to the farmer. And we're able to save the North Carolina poultry industry a ton of money by providing that service for them. Something else that we provide for them is spreader calibration demos. And so as far as their litter spreader goes, we're able to help them learn how to properly calibrate it so that it is spreading the right amount of waste at the time so that we are applying at agronomic rates. And what that means is that we're not over applying any more than what the plants, the crops, will be able to take up and use. So we always want farmers to be applying at those agronomic rates, and that is something that we can help them do. We can also help you read a waste sample, a soil sample. We can help you talk about how to take those samples and send them off to the lab. Anything that you can think about educationally speaking is what we in Extension are here to help do. So although this role is similar to what I did as a livestock agent, like I said, it is very poultry specific now. But what we do now is actually almost kind of split up into working with the backyard producers from an educational standpoint, as well as working with the commercial producers from an educational standpoint. So it's a little more specialized in the name. And we get to work with a lot of really cool groups like you guys and kind of talk about what we do and why it's important and how we can educate farmers on doing an even better job than they already do, and what some of our roles with some of these groups are. So it's a really interesting job. It's not something that I do the same thing every day. So as you're looking for careers and thinking about them for your future, I encourage you to think about that. Do you like to sit at a desk, or do you like to be outside? Do you like to travel, or do you prefer to be at home and you're kind of a homebody? So think about all of those things as you are selecting a career. And I know that you guys are an FFA chapter, but sometimes ag is just a part of your passion, but may not be exactly something you want to do as a job or a career in the future. So consider that as well. It's important to think about those things as you move forward, because you can definitely change jobs throughout your career, of course, but it's also really cool if you get to start out right out of school, or right out of high school, college, whatever it may be for you, doing something that you really enjoy and something that is not the same every day, if that's what you would like, or is kind of the same type of activity every day, if that's what you prefer. So there's a lot of different things to think about. This is what I do specifically. I hope that I will be able to stay in this role for a long time. I'd love to get my 30 years in with the state if I can. So happy to answer any questions that you guys have. I don't want to just talk and talk. I'd love to kind of interact with y'all and see if you have any questions for me.
All right. Thank you so much. Guys, what questions do you have? I'm sure some of you have questions out there.
What would be your favorite poultry to work with?
What would be my favorite ones to work with, as far as like chickens or turkeys, something like that?
Yes.
I would definitely say we get to work a lot with the backyard producers, like I was talking about, and I think layers are really cool because eggs are just fascinating to me. And I think some of the coolest things we do is to go to different backyard flocks. A lot of this, of course, is pre-COVID, but being able to do farm visits and go see different flocks and how people and why people raise what they do is really cool. So I would probably have to say just your regular old backyard layer, and kind of seeing what type of eggs they produce, the really cool colors, the chocolate colors, the greens, the blues. I think your just your regular old backyard layer, your laying hen, is kind of the coolest thing we work with. They do a lot of work on a daily basis, and I think that's just a cool thing to see happen and to see managed.
And while we're waiting on a couple more questions, Ms. Ross, we actually, I don't know if Noah told you, but we actually do have our own little backyard chicken coop at the school. And we have kind of a hodgepodge of, we have some golden comets, we have some mixed breeds that we've hatched here at school, and we have a silky pen too. So most of the students who have had me or will have me will get to go out and, we feed our chickens and we gather the eggs. And I was just, when I muted my screen, I had a teacher come buy some eggs. So we do get to kind of work with our own little backyard flock at school, which is pretty cool.
That's awesome. That's great. And it's a great learning opportunity for students like you guys, as well as when you guys grow up and you have your own families. It's a really cool experience for your children too, because raising chickens is not hard, but it is time consuming, and you do want to do a good job at it and take really great care of them. So it's a really great way to learn responsibility in a young family, as well as to see the progress and the process of getting the chicks, raising them, brooding them, and then 4, 5, 6 months later, seeing them lay that first egg. It's a cool thing to see and to work with.
Any other questions from the group? If you don't feel comfortable saying it, you can always send a message in the chat and I will ask it for you.
Do y'all both work on animals, or is it like a little bit of both, animals and like picking crops and stuff like that?
So that's a great question. And in cooperative extension, we have agents that cover different areas. So I am housed in Jones County, but like I said, I cover the eastern 30-something counties for just poultry. But for example, in the Jones County office, we have a 4-H agent, which is a very similar to FFA type of program. So that's all that that person does is work with 4-H youth programming. Our director here, he actually covers crops, and so he's our field crops agent. And so that's all he does is he works with row crop farmers, corn, wheat, beans, tobacco, whatever. And then we have a livestock agent, and in a lot of counties, we have a livestock agent that covers more than one county. And so our livestock agent here actually covers Jones, Craven, and Pamlico counties. And she does exactly what I do, but with all livestock species. So any type of educational programming, livestock shows, judging fairs, things like where that's how I met Noah, is at judging a chicken show. And so she works in those 3 counties specifically with livestock programming. And then our last agent is our Family and Consumer Sciences agent, which used to be known as the Home Ec agent. And unfortunately, a lot of those in-school versions of those teachers have gone away, but they're really great resources for anything to do with like food prep, canning and preservation, anything to do with home economics. So learning how to sew, learning how to do anything as far as buying meat in bulk and cutting it up and learning how to freeze and store and preserve it, anything to do with home economics. So that's the other agent that we have. And typically in the counties, one of those agents that I just described will also be the county director. And that just simply means just that they're in charge of that county office and they're able to do all of the administration part of that as well. And we do have an administrative assistant who really is like the glue and the mama hen, if you will, of all of our offices. And we wouldn't get anything done if it wasn't for them, because they kind of keep us all melded together and keep us on the right track. But what I do is not really on the vet side, which I think was kind of the other part of your question. We do work with animals, but we cannot make diagnoses of any kind, and that's the vet's job. And they're very clear definition of that sometime and not so clear at other times. But we don't like to overstep our bounds. We're just here as an educational resource. And if we have specific questions, we have a lot of vet friends, and we can reach out to them and ask questions about how to handle specific situations, or refer a chicken question to that owner's veterinarian themselves.
Thanks, Ashton. That was a really good question. Does anybody else have a question for Ms. Ross? Oh, Noah said, how hard was it to get into your college and what classes did you have to take? So like high school preparation to get into NC State.
So I went to New Bern High School. That's a great question. And unfortunately, we did not actually have an FFA chapter at the time. They do now, which is great. But when I was there many moons ago, they did not. And so I was really blessed that I had 4-H as the way that kind of steered me in a good direction toward an ag school and an ag career. So 4-H and FFA, I highly recommend you be involved in at least one, if not both, because they're really, really great opportunities to get geared up if you want to be in an agricultural career. So I did go to NC State. Like I said, I did only apply there. I highly don't recommend that. Looking back, I can't believe that my parents let me do that. I think they just knew that if I didn't get in there, I just was going to have to wait and try again the next year, because I just had my heart set on going to NC State. And so I recommend that you apply to lots of schools if college is the choice for you. And when I got to State, you can actually be on an extension path or career track, if you will. So at NC State, they have an industry animal science program and a science animal science program. The science one is geared towards things like vet school. The industry is geared towards things like extension, being a pharmaceutical sales rep for any of the big companies like Novartis, BI, any places like that, Zoetis, etc. So anything to do with the industry. Also, if you wanted to, say, be the manager of a sow farm, that would be a great degree to have to go back into the industry with. So all of the classes are set within a pool for you that you pick and choose from, depending upon what your schedule is like that semester. And of course, you'll have an advisor that will help you figure that schedule out as you go. And then once you get up in your classes towards being a senior, you'll have a lot more flexibility in what you do. And you'll have some things called special problems or special topics. And those are where you can more find a topic or a problem that you would like to find more information out about that can count towards your degree and will be very specialized to what you want to do when you graduate from college. So I took a lot of nutrition classes, a lot of reproduction classes, genetics, statistics, and it goes on and on. It just depends on how far you want to go. If I had gone the vet school route, I would have had to take that chemistry class probably another time. And so a lot of chemistry, a lot of biochemistry, nutrition is always good to have if you're headed the vet school route. And then you are going to have some math classes too. So calculus was never my favorite subject and never will be, but maybe it is for you, and that would be something else you would have to have. So Noah, that's been a few years back to try to remember specific classes, but those are the main topics I can think of off the top of my head. Did that answer your question? Okay.
Thank you. All right, awesome. Thanks, Noah. That was a good question. Any more questions? We're kind of coming down to the home stretch of our time. Does anybody else have a question to ask about NC State, poultry science, anything for Ms. Ross?
And I will add that we do, like Ms. Lawrence said, we do work very closely with the poultry science department on campus. And so there's a lot of youth programming that we help the youth programming person on campus do throughout the year. So that's another aspect of what we do as well. We work for NC, as area agents, we work for NC State Extension, which is only the North Carolina State University side of Cooperative Extension. Cooperative Extension is both North Carolina State University and North Carolina A&T State University combined together. So if you ever had a question about what Cooperative Extension is, it is both the universities coming together. It's their extension service. But I technically work for NC State Extension, which is just housed on the NC State side.
Any more questions? Last call for questions.
If you do judge animals, how would you judge it?
As far as like livestock shows or poultry shows, chicken shows?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, sure. So that's a great question. It depends on, I mean, we'll talk about poultry since that's what I do here. But there are typically two types of livestock shows as far as classes. A market class, which that means will be totally judged on the animal, no matter the species. The other type is showmanship, and that is judged totally on you as the one showing the animal. So it depends on what you like to do as a judge. Some people like both. Some people are very specific about which one they like. Some judges like the market side because it's not based on the child, and they don't like placing children first or last because that can be difficult. And so on the market side, it's really cool to see. You basically are just comparing one bird to the next all the way down the line, and you're looking at different characteristics. Now, if you're looking at a broiler, you're looking for meat quality, you're looking for bigger, larger breasts because that's the most important part and cut of the bird when it's going to go to market. You're looking for good, sturdy feet and to hold that bird up because by week 6, 7, 8, 9, they're getting really heavy and it's hard to stand up by that point unless they have good, strong legs. Then on the layer side, you're looking for a good, clean vent. You're looking for wide pubic bone so that egg has a great, easy place to come through on the way out. You're looking to make sure that they are clean and all of you don't have any discharge from the eyes or the nose or the mouth or anything or coughing, and also that they have good, clean feet and feathers as well. Then on the showmanship side, it's just based on the child, and it's all about your being able to talk confidently, loudly, clearly, answering all of the judge's questions appropriately, being able to show and name all of the parts of the bird that the judge may ask you for, and being able to make good eye contact, all of the things that you're learning in FFA about public speaking, doing demonstrations, all of those skills will come into play when you're judging, when you're being in a chicken show and being judged by someone. So keep in mind, all the things you're learning here are gonna flow over into other aspects of your life as well. But yeah, so that's basically the quick version of judging a chicken show or a livestock show. There's 2 different ways it's set up, and those are some of the things that you look for.
All right, thanks, Casey. That was a good question. So we are coming to the end of our meeting. So first thing we want to do is thank Ms. Ross for volunteering her time to talk to us this afternoon. Hopefully you learned something about careers in agriculture. We are doing this session every Thursday with a different person in a career in agriculture. So, keep looking out for those emails from me. Also, our FFA meeting is next Tuesday, and we will be talking about career development events. And one of those is poultry judging. So if today's meeting kind of interested you and you're interested in poultry, you definitely want to come to the FFA meeting next Tuesday, because we're going to start setting up our teams for the spring, and poultry judging is one of those teams. So keep an eye out for the invite for the FFA meeting. And if you guys will, just send Ms. Ross a thank you in the message, and then you are free to go. Don't forget to log this as SAE hours if you have an SAE project.
Thank you, guys.
Let me stop recording.